Hi, this is Isabella with EBTV, and today we'll be talking with Dave Burwell about his new exhibit in the East Brunswick Public Library.
My name is Dave Burwell, and I'm a photographic artist. I live in Princeton, but really happy to be here in East Brunswick with my exhibit entitled Walking Distance. I've enjoyed photography since I was a kid and have really had a lifelong passion for it. And I would say about 5 years ago, I became a full-time photographer. Now I teach photography full-time and do photography full-time. This collection called Walking Distance is really a collection of photographs that I made over a period of a year on simply walks from my house. You know, so many people believe that they need to go away someplace exotic in order to take interesting photos. You know, I think there's some truth to that, but what I've also found in my own photography is that my favorite pictures, and maybe my best pictures, the ones that sort of stand the test of time for me, are photos that I've taken in places that I've gone back to time and again. I really wanted to have a collection of photographs that were really places I knew very well, and what better place than places I walk to every day.
So are some of these places, have you gone back to them different seasons to take pictures?
That's a great question. Yes, I actually love to do that. In fact, all of these photographs in this exhibit are photographs from multiple trips to the same location. Again, going back to places that I'm very comfortable with, that feel very good to me. I tend to have more of a intuitive feel for the place, and somehow that translates into my photographs. I remember going out that early in that spring and early April and being really overwhelmed with sort of the feelings of light and color. And so I adopted sort of somewhat of an impressionistic sort of style, and I did many photographs with actually moving the camera. And so I would do a long exposure, like a half a second exposure, but while the shutter was open, and I would move the camera slightly. And so that created just a little bit of motion, and actually sort of a little bit of blur in the photos. And so it takes on a little bit of a kind of a watercolor or impressionistic feeling. And so that was what I was feeling as I was doing those images. So in the spring, I had a lot of photos like that. And I was exploring that technique and really trying to kind of perfect my technique at the same time as exploring the images that came from that. And then as the year moved on, especially as we got to the autumn and then to winter, I was doing much more what I would call more traditional kind of photographs. And especially as we got to winter, I love the snow-covered tree kind of look, and so I felt a little bit sort of in reverence to the trees. I took very sort of traditional kind of photographs, and I love those too. So the style of my photographs kind of morphed as they evolved as the year went on. But again, there was also a lot in common, in terms of the subject matter being mostly nature. And what I like to think of as sort of the visual simplicity of the photograph. So often in my photographs, I tend to pay a lot of attention to what I'm trying to exclude from the photograph as much as what I'm trying to include. And so I think that sort of that approach kind of played out throughout all the photographs, whether the style, the blurring, or the more traditional images.
So when people see your artwork, what do you want them to take away from it?
One thing that I do believe, and really this exhibit is very much about, is that there is beauty around us every day. I tend to be oriented toward nature, but wherever you are, there is beauty in the world, I believe. So one of the things that I was trying to do with this exhibit was really sort of express the beauty that is around us every day as we make our way through the world. And it can be as simple as taking a walk in your neighborhood. You don't have to go someplace exotic to experience that beauty. And it's really around us. And I think one of the things that I really love about photography, perhaps the thing I love the most about photography, is that it tends to slow me down and notice the world around me much more. So I feel much more present in the world when I'm photographing. And so I think, and I've heard other photographers say similar things, and I think it's really true. I think it really get you much more engaged with what's going on in the present moment around you.
How can people find out more about your art?
Well, I have a website, and that's www.daveburwell.com. And I actually have lots of sort of free downloadable ebooks on my website. In fact, I have an ebook of this exhibit on my website, and I try and do one every few months. So that's one way that people can actually go to my website and actually just download an ebook for free. Also, obviously, I have lots of my photographs on the website. I've sort of got them organized by geography. As I mentioned, I'm largely do nature photography, and there are certain locations that I love and I go back to over and over again, as I mentioned, and so those are the ones that are on my website. Before we go, I really want to make sure I thank everyone at the East Brunswick Library. I honestly cannot believe what a great space this is to exhibit. First of all, I'm really happy to be here. And I also want to give a special thanks to Melissa Hosick, who invited me. And I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
This was Isabella, and again, the exhibit is through the end of July, and I hope everyone can come out to see it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.